just want to say happy Black History Month. Feliz mes de la historia negra. It's truly such an honor that today we have amazing panelists, Cailin, Cambria, Zerrick, and Nubia, who are going to impart their experiences as Black queer femmes and how they navigate their different fields of art, study. And I'm super excited. I know they are as well to be sharing their experiences with y'all. And we basically, the way this program is going to be set up today is that we are going to allot the first 40 minutes for them to just talk about themselves, what's important to them. And then after those 40 minutes, where everyone gets their individualized time to speak, we're going to open up to the Q&A. So for the first form, y'all, we're going to go over in a bit some ground rules, just a land acknowledgement, and also just introduce the rest of our Rise Up and Act team here at the Walas Memorias project. And once again, thank you, the Walas Memorias, for helping us host this event. Okay, everyone. So first person. I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Victor. My pronouns are he, him, they, them, or anything respectful. And I'm a community organizer here at the Walas Memorias Project. And unfortunately, y'all, one of Cailin is actually not going to be able to join us on a live platform today because she had some family affairs that she has to attend to. But she was still very much excited to be a part of this program. And she actually shared content with us to prepare. We have a video, a song cover that she created, and she also specifically catered a video message for our panelists. So Miguel's going to share that with y'all in a bit. Okay, so that was Cailin's cover of Fireworks. Her pronouns are she, her, hers. And so she's going to elaborate more in the video message that we created for her, but she's a self-taught guitarist. And we can drop her Instagram in a bit if any of you want to follow more of her art. She's currently in the process of recording two studio albums. And she's also part of an all-Black femme band called the Eve Jean. Busting out, yes, she really does bust out with the locals. And she's a Cancer, so she's a mother, no drama with that. And so it's super amazing. And in a bit, y'all, we're going to be playing the video message that Cailin also recorded for all of you here to watch today.
Hi guys, so I'm Cailin Womack, and I want to just start off by saying thank you, Victor, for throwing this amazing Black Femme panel, and thank you so much, Zerrick, Nubia, and Cambria for sharing space with me. I'm ever so grateful to be able to be a part of this, and I want to apologize for not being able to be live and in the present because I was so excited to be able to exchange energy with you guys and be able to do a Q&A and back and forth. And I really, really wanted to be present. And I hope that in the future, we'll be able to do this again and I'll be able to get that chance another time. But it's still very important for me to still be able to be a part of this and share with you guys. So I wanted to do a video so I can still talk and discuss. And I hope that I'll be able to get a video of the three of you guys' conversations and your speeches. So I'm really excited to be able to hear that and to share with you. So I want to start off by in-depthly sharing who I am. So my name is Cailin Womack, and I release music under the artist name Cailix. I'm also in a all-Black femme band called the Eve Jean. I also am an event organizer. I'm a writer. I'm a poet. I'm a lyricist. I'm a guitar player, a musician, and all-around Black femme creative, just always creating in any medium and format and outlet that I'm able to. So I guess I want to start this discussion off by kind of sharing why I do what I do, why I think it's important, what inspired me to do what I do, and what it is exactly that I do. My mother was also a musician, and my parents were born kind of in the 1950s, 1960s. So I grew up with parents that were kind of old enough to be my grandparents. I and my grandparents had to go to a different state to get married because where they lived, segregation was still implemented, and it was illegal for two people of separate races to get married. So growing up for me in a household where my family, my lineage was directly affected by segregation, by white supremacy, by the oppression of Black people, it was interesting growing up as a Gen Z in our environment and kind of America's current influence that so much change has been made, but then also having a household and seeing how my lineage and how the Black women in my life have been affected and how they've suffered growing up in the civil rights segregation kind of area. I consumed a lot of art and a lot of music and a lot of poetry and a lot of literature from that era. I grew up on lots of blues and lots of folk, lots of Memphis Minnie and Mississippi John Hurt. And I think that was one of my earliest influences, just growing up on lots of Billie Holiday, growing up on lots of Nina Simone, growing up on lots of Ma Rainey. And I fell in love. I fell in love with their stories. For me, when I think about the artistic contributions and creations that Black Americans and Black American femmes have contributed, I'm always so outstanded. I'm always so inspired. I'm always so in awe. I think about how we've been robbed from our relationship with Africa, not given the rights to know our language or our food or our customs or our history, and that right that as Black Americans, we recreated our music again, our cuisine again, our customs all over again. Just as Black Americans, we created the jazz movement through the Harlem Renaissance and making the blues movement. You know, we made rock music, we made rap music, and so on and etc. And just kind of using art as a social and political outlet, as a way of self-expression, as therapy. Like I said, I grew up on lots of folk music and lots of blues, and I love reading about the blues movement and how that came about, and basically how the term blues kind of got coined because Black people were feeling blue. We were being oppressed. We were dealing with segregation. And the blues was a way that we got together and we were able to express ourselves. We were able to have this community, have this therapy, have this outlet. We used music as a form of political and social expression, as a form of community and a form of therapy. That's how we got our voices through that. And when I think about the women before me, I really feel like doing music has allowed a time capsule. You know what I mean? Instead of allowing society to tell you, oh, what it was like, or what our women, or what our men, or what our culture, and what our community went through, I'm able to hear it from their mouths themselves. You know what I mean? I think it's so beautiful that I'm able to, through these artists, whether they're writers like Audre Lorde or whether they're artists like Nina Simone, have these personal creations and basically these artistic diaries of Black women themselves, telling me what it was like to be them in that time, telling me what they had to endure, telling me what their environment is like, telling me what their oppression was like, telling me what their love was like, what their hurt was like, what their anger were like. You know what I mean? And I think that's so beautiful. And it's always been important to me to be able to pay that forward. Nina Simone has a quote where she says, it's an artist's duty. An artist's duty is to reflect the times. And I think about what it did for me to be able to hear the Black women of the 1930s through their music, and the 40s and the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. Now here we are in the 2000s and so on and so forth, them telling their truth, getting just to hear how my mother's mother, you know, how she sang, how she hurt, how she expressed herself, how she danced, how she bled, how she fell in love, how she hurt. You know, all those things, I find it so powerful and so beautiful. Like I said, I think music is this really amazing time capsule that allows us to personally connect with the history of our people, our culture, and our history through such a beautiful artistic expression. And I feel the same about my creations. And just being able to make music, I don't know, I have my own lyrical style and my own literary approach to things, and I just really love a very like raw, stream of consciousness, almost surrealist, honest diary format to my writing. And I thought about like how therapeutic it was for me to be able to just growing up as a young Black woman and all the stereotypes and boxes and boundaries that are placed on us and how our bodies and our identities and who we can be and how we can't be, just being policed in such a way, and being someone who is always very non-conventional and different, and just how ostracized I felt, or how displaced I felt, and just to know that that's always going to be the fight of a Black woman, owning her body, owning her identity, owning her history, owning her present, owning her future. It's always going to be that way. That's what we're working to change. And I don't know, it's just, I feel a due diligence to just continue and carry that torch on for my mother and for my mother's mother and for my mother's mother's mother. Women like Memphis Minnie and Ma Rainey and Sister Rosetta Thorpe and Nina Simone and Billie Holiday, what they did I find to be so incredible, so political, so powerful, so beautiful. And I think I just feel a major due diligence just to carry that forward and just to be able to, I feel through art.
Awesome. Okay, everyone. So we decided to stop the video there. And as y'all saw, like how really Cailin, I really enjoys because she elaborates on the intergenerational resilience that Black women have carried Black femmes from one another. And like I said, unfortunately, she wasn't able to join us today. But if you all want to finish hearing what Cailin has to say, if you want to hear a narrative, feel free to DM myself, Miguel later, and we're gonna follow up with Cailin so she can share that video with us because I know she also has a lot of amazing things to say. But for now, y'all, we're going to like time restrictions. We're just gonna move on to our next panelist that I also would love to introduce. Yes, thank you so much, Lani, for bringing that up. We do have Cailin's Instagram, so if one of my lovely team members can drop it in the chat, it would be deeply appreciated. And so right now, y'all, I would like to introduce Keniyah King, who's actually another one of our co-facilitators for this event, and she's going to introduce our next two panelists. So Keniyah, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to you, friend.
Hi. Hey, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Hey, everybody. Happy Black History Month. I hope you guys enjoyed what's been going on so far. My name's Keniyah. I go by she, her. And next, I will be introducing our next panelist, the brilliant Cambria Kelley, who is currently a student at NYU. So she's over here delivering this to us from the snow in the trenches at NYU. And she is majoring in museum, I think it's museum arts or something similar to that. But she is on her way onto becoming a brilliant, brilliant Black bi museum curator. And so I would like to pass the mic on to her so she can explain to us the brilliance that is behind that.
Thank you so much, Keniyah. Thank you so much, Victor, and everyone who threw this event. This is a wonderful opportunity. I'm so nervous, but I'm very forever grateful. Again, my name is Cambria. I'm from Los Angeles. I was born and raised. I went to UC Riverside for creative writing. My track was poetry and nonfiction. And I did museum, work in the museum field. I worked at the California Museum of Photography. So a lot of my lived experiences and my work is around writing and museums. And so, yeah, I finished. I ended up attending NYU. I'm currently in my first year. I'm at the NYU School of Gallatin School of Individualized Studies. So it's a program where I can make my own thesis and make my own concentration, just to contextualize it a bit better. And so my area of study is museum curation and memory. So I'm looking at particularly how bodies, particularly Black bodies, living, dead, in the future, have interacted within the museum space, and how the absence or even the presence of these bodies reinforce are the foundation of the museum institutions. So that's a little bit about what I study, but a lot of my work is within the Black feminist theory, the Black writers. I really look up look up to James Baldwin. I look up to Audre Lorde, Black lesbian writers. I feel like these are the crux of my work and my imagination, because I think these amazing writers focus on not only the political, but also their own existences as being political and beyond the violence and beyond death and beyond trauma, but the ethereal parts of life, joy, expression, the simplicity. That's the best way I can explain. I focus on the simplicity because there's not enough of that intent, not enough of that focus when in a country and in a history we're constantly desensitized to trauma. So that's my area of work, and I live, breathe, and eat live, breathe, and eat that work and area study. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I think that one of my favorite things that you actually said was when you were talking about Audre Lorde and James Baldwin, these queer Black artists that are storytellers. You're a storyteller. You majored in creative writing, and now that you're moving your stories to the museum space, it's similar because those writers, Audre Lorde and James Baldwin, they wrote about everyday Black folk. It was sort of archival in a way, because it was from a set of different time, but it wasn't this extraordinary story, because with a lot of Black mediums, we have a lot of I guess it would be success stories where it's through things that are really big, someone being a drug dealer or something like that, something that's out of 1 in a million, and these people told these stories that were just about regular people going through regular things. And that's pretty similar to like what you're explaining and what you're saying, what your research is going into, seeing how these spaces, how these Black folk are utilized in these museum spaces, because you don't really see, I guess, the stories of everyday Black folk in museum spaces. It's usually like something super duper crazy, or just like, I guess, like stolen artifacts basically from like royalty or something like that. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah. Yes, and Cambria, something that I did want to ask you is because you did say that you're in the Gallatin School of Individualized Studies, and I know that yourself, like, you probably identify as a product of the 323, moving from LA. You moved from coast to coast. And so I was wondering if you can just share your experiences as how it has been to be like a Black woman in graduate school and what like navigating those resources look like and how it looks like, you know, to just be so far away from home.
Yeah, okay, I can explain that. I think COVID has like exacerbated a lot of the problems that being a Black grad student has. There's like, I think from my experience, maybe everyone else who's gone through that may have a different idea, but from my experience, it's very like, if you're like from like a new state or you've never been to a city and then you just one day like move, like just decide to like pack up everything and move across the country, and like with like even COVID like restrictions making it very isolated, it feels very isolating. I came here in August, so I graduated and then I like packed up all my stuff and like came out here, and it was very difficult because I didn't know what to expect. And I was already like, I came in already knowing that there's a lot of differences, like class differences, attitudes, cultural, like, yeah, cultural shifts within, like, from the East Coast and the West Coast. And I had to like remember that, you know, I am a Black girl from LA, and that's like something that cannot be compromised in New York, in a city that can easily like eat you alive. Like, New York is a hard city. And if you aren't solid in like who you are, like you can get caught up in the city. And that's one thing I've been trying. I've been here for 6 months. I've been using these last 6 months to challenge myself and to challenge like, okay, yeah, like I offer a lot to the table, and these rich folks may not like see that, but I'm not here for them to see that. Like, I'm here for me. And that's like something that's like very hard in graduate school when you're a first gen graduate student and you don't know how to navigate those spaces that are really meant for you. So it's like my spaces has been hard. I've luckily found like older Black women and older non-binary people to help me through it within my cohort too. But sometimes it's a little difficult because they're 20, like 10, 20 years older than you, and you don't, like, sometimes there's that disconnect, and but you can see the effort put in there. So it's been really interesting being at NYU, like consider like an elite school. Like I'm very like grounded in like where I'm from, and I try not to forget that. And I'm like, you know, like, yeah, I'm a poor girl from LA. Like, like I'm here, so what's new? So it's very like, it's really easy to get caught up in it and like feel threatened or like feel like you're not doing enough when like a lot of these people like next to you at NYU probably had like earlier like advantages in you. So it's really hard to undo and unlearn, but I've had to like recognize that I earned my place here and I worked hard and I put in so much effort and so much love and so much tears into what I'm doing. And I think right now, like, if you'd asked me 6 months ago when I first came out here, I probably wouldn't have said what I'm saying right now. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Thank you so much for imparting that, Cambria, experiences, reclaiming those resources. I really like how you're also very critical of the institution itself. Like, you already know who you are and you're here to reclaim those resources. Something I did want to ask you too is because on your Instagram, you identify as a museum auntie. And I was wondering if you could like elaborate or talk to us about like why you choose that, like what inspired you to like a little bit more like museum auntie. Like you said, I like how you don't compromise who you are. So like what's this identity behind museum auntie?
Um, I call myself the museum auntie because like I look up like art, like people like Kimberly Drew, who is like a curator, and like, you know, these are like young mid-20s, early 30s, like Black women or Black identified like women who they aren't like, I believe they aren't like like put in these molds like of gender, and like being a femme, like a queer femme, like it's very hard. It's very easy to get caught in like hetero norms, and I feel like calling myself an auntie, it's like I am young and I'm hip. I'm young, but like at the same time, like I am a professional, and a lot of people don't conflate being like a young casual like person with being a professional, because of like when you're working in high art or you're working within the museum field, you're expected to be rigid, and you're like expected to already like be like so professional, like you can't really like mess up. And I think for like black people in the museum field aren't given agency to express joy or express their full emotions and who they are without getting labeled as such. And that's like one of the experiences I had when I was working at the museum in undergrad. Like, yeah, like I brought in a lot of like energy and life, but there was a lot of pushback from like my admin that didn't really like the way I was doing things, and it made me doubt myself and my confidence. So I use the term like museum auntie as a way to reclaim that, and also to like, you know, like I'm, you know, I feel like an aunt. I actually am an aunt in real life, but like just like, yeah, you know, this is like nice and cute, and like it makes me feel good when I say that. So
And I just want to say, everyone, because Cambria is too humble to say it, but Cambria actually got straight A's for her first semester in graduate school. So just round of applause for Cambria 4.0. It's like moving across the city. Like, I'm so proud of you, friend, and like for imparting and everything for your reason. So thank you for just doing everything you did. And we're gonna have more opportunities, y'all. If there's any questions that you want to ask Cambria as well for the Q&A, we're gonna have that opportunity. But now I'm gonna pass it back to Keniyah as well again, who's gonna introduce our next panelist. Thank you, Cam.
Thank you, Cambria. So I'm going to introduce our next panelist, Zerrick, who is an amazing, amazing dancer and choreographer from LA as well. They are, I'm so sorry. They identify as a gay man, but in the ballroom scene, they are a butch queen, and that is the category that they perform in. So go ahead, pass the mic to you. Go ahead and share with the class the beauty of what you do.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. My name is Zerrick Payne. My pronouns are he, she, and they. I am a mid-city local. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I am a part of the House of Milan in the ballroom scene, and I compete in the Butch Queen Vogue Femme category, which is like, you know, the dancing. And just a little history about ballroom. If for those of you who don't know, ballroom is an underground subculture for LGBTQ plus youth that dates back to the 1970s and New York City, which was a safe haven for Black and Brown and Latinx people, where they can come to a safe space and be themselves and compete in categories for prizes, trophies, and glory, because during that time, and even still today, they weren't and, you know, aren't accepted in the regular world. And this was a space for them to be free and to be celebrated and recognized for being themselves. And oh crap. Getting nervous.
No, you're doing amazing, friend. You're doing great. And I feel like, honestly, thank you so much like for giving us that history of the ballroom house community, because like I feel like what I'm seeing right now too is it's like, you know, it's awesome to like amazing shows like Pose. We're seeing that the ballroom house community has become very mainstream. And as I've learned myself and I've had to like ground myself, is like there's actually a lot of history, a lot of respect also with the terms that come away. I remember even you were just like, oh, like tell me about like the different categories and different this. So I'm also curious to know how the ballroom house community right now, especially in this time in COVID and this epidemic, has acclimated. Like how, or like what's your relationship right now to your family and the House of Milan? What do like the ballroom scene look like right now? Like, is it on a virtual platform? What does it look like?
Okay. Well, with the House of Milan, in the beginning of the pandemic, last year in 2020, I joined the month after everything closed down in April. And I wasn't able to, you know, travel and meet people because of with the pandemic and, you know, not being around strangers. So with my house and with ballroom itself, a lot of it has moved on to virtual platforms such as Bigo and Zoom, which is a great way for, the young generation and the older generation to still express themselves, despite not being able to travel then and to compete at these balls. Because for um, some of us, that's all we have, that's the only outlet we have to be around, people like us, our brothers and sisters, to express ourselves. And with the epidemic, we still have those platforms to express ourselves and to meet other people as well, because there are also ballroom scenes in other parts of the world, as Europe, South America, Asia, and Antarctica. And in a lot of these places, the scene is either very small or non-existent. So this has been a great way for a lot of people to get to know each other, to compete, to still be a part of the community, and still be able to, express themselves despite everything that's been going on.
So Zerrick, I actually have a question. Oh, obviously. So earlier, like when we spoke earlier, you mentioned how Los Angeles, how their ballroom scene isn't as like humongous as like places like New York or like Paris maybe. And you've been like dancing for a while, like you've been dancing for like, since 2015. So that's like almost like 6 years at this point. Are you
Yeah.
interested in like being like, because like you're from LA, so like are you interested, like is your loyalty to LA like is what's keeping you like in the scene? Are you interested in just building like in like being a part of building Los Angeles's like ballroom scene, or like would you consider even moving somewhere elsewhere with like a bigger ballroom scene?
I honestly, in a few years, I would like to move to a different state just to, experience a different type of, scene.
Yeah.
Just because I've been in LA, all my 22 years, and I just started traveling. So I'm just now getting to see different parts of the world. However, LA is a good place to get noticed and a good place to have opportunities to be blessed with and, to go after. With being in the ballroom scene since I was a teenager, I've gotten opportunities to be in Super Bowl commercials. I've worked with artists with music videos on TV shows. And even recently, I was just part of a makeup pride campaign. So right now, LA, even though the scene is kind of small, there's a cute group here.
Yeah.
And like, we're all so loving and I love it here. I'm not ready to leave just yet, but this definitely is a place, to utilize it and to utilize all its opportunities and make the best of it, until you want to venture out somewhere else.
Oh wow, yeah. Like you even mentioned your age, like you're so young to be making the strides that you've already done. Like this is what this panel is for. That's Black history in itself. Like thank you for sharing that. That's really special.
Yes. And Zerrick, and think like something on because you're like talking about your future plans, but I guess I want to ask this question to you just like for my own like selfish reasons, because like it's so funny, like everyone like like I met Zerrick at like a summer camp when we were in high school, like these like little closeted gays. It's just like I feel like in high school we're like kind of given like, okay, you go to college, you go to this, but like Zerrick, how did you find your way into the ballroom house community? Like, did someone check on you, or like did you like what? I'm curious to know how you found your way into like ballroom.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little history. Uh, so I grew up in a home that had physical abuse. I also grew up in a home with a lot of queer females, but not queer males. So the female was a little bit accepted more so than males. And I also had a queer sibling who also didn't accept me and was homophobic to me. So, and you would think like, that makes no sense. But that was very like hurtful, and it was very hard growing up with that. And I knew that in order for me to thrive in life, I had to do the best I can to do what I need to do to get out of this house and to be who I wanted to be. So I was, doing my best in school. I was going to camps like where I met Victor. I was being a part of this club, being president, volunteering, sports athlete, team captain. And it's just that just wasn't enough, because even though I was doing all that, it was a good enough distraction, but I still had to go home to the same hardships. And it just wasn't cutting it. I just felt stuck. And I'm like, where's my place in life? Why am I experiencing this? And then one day in high school, social media, I had found voguing. I had found a European ballroom pioneer. Her name is Lysandra Ninja. She was at a ball voguing. And as a teenager, I was so intrigued by this. I'm like, wow, like, what is this? Like, this person's falling on the floor. And I was just like, wow, like, this is amazing. So I took it, I seen it, I went on YouTube, I started doing my studying. At 15, I didn't know there was no LA ballroom scene here. So all I had was YouTube. And I was pretty much studying every day. I was voguing at high school all the time. Eventually, I became like the voguing kid in high school. And I actually found the ballroom scene here through someone on the East Coast. They were like, hey, this is happening here in LA. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool, finally. And this is like 2018. So 3 years had gone by. I just had online. I had the people that I would meet online, from like South America, Brazil, people in New York, just connecting with them, teaching me about things, learning about this, learning the culture. And then I walked my first ball in 2018. And then after that, I had found my gay family. I had found gay uncles, gay aunts, gay brothers and sisters. I had a gay father for a short period of time. And since then, my ballroom career has thrived. I've walked balls, I've met people, I've traveled, I've had opportunities. I've been blessed with opportunities that came my way. And it's still going. It's only up from here.
That's beautiful, friend. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm gonna save the tears for after the event, and I'm so happy to like see the way you have like this blossom to a butterfly cameo as well. Like how y'all continue to spread your wings, and really y'all are just so young and really just scratching the surface of so many things. So thank you so much, Zerrick, for really sharing that very personal and just beautiful narrative of how you came into the ballroom house community. And along with Cambria, y'all, Zerrick, you can we'll have the opportunity to ask some questions once we also finish our panelists. But the next person that I would love to introduce, our finalist panelist, y'all, is Miss Nubia Iman, who is an LA icon. They're a Capricorn. Miss Nubia, can you hear me? I'm just like trying to make sure I'm on my phone, so I can't really see everybody.
I sure can. I sure can. Hold on. Let me just get this whole area situated so that you guys don't see my messy ass room.
Of course, take your time, boo. And like, I just something I want to say to Nubia that I've never really had the opportunity to tell you. But I think the first time I know the first time I ever saw you perform was at the Fault Line Bar on Melrose, and I think it was for that competition where they were and like I was about to leave too. I was just like, okay, it's cool, like it's getting a little predatory here, like whatever. But then you went up and you performed "Fierce" by Azealia Banks, and it just blew me away to like this day. Like I still very much like think about that, and I'm just like very much like still a base. Like I've always been your friend, but like I just really have always been such a fan ever since then. But I was wondering.
Go ahead, keep going. I'm just getting set
Oh
up.
no, yeah, it's fine. But if actually, friends. So meanwhile, you set up. We're gonna actually play one of Zerrick's ballroom competition videos. So take your time, okay?
Thank you. Oh yes.
Being fine. Wow, Zerrick.
Period.
Yeah, Zerrick. I've
Yes.
never seen that.
Period. Yes, Zerrick.
Zerrick, where were you in that moment? Where was that? How?
That was here in LA. I think that was some club like in mid city, almost South Central, like down Pico and Crenshaw. And the category was calling for like rock stars. I was like Rick James. That was that was the last ball I walked, and that was like 2019. Yeah, and then the pandemic happened, so it's like I haven't walked in like over a year.
You're so humble, friend. Like that was just like here. So I'm just like so shocked. I'm gonna go back and like look at more videos of yours later on YouTube. That's up there. Nubia, do you have everything set up, friend? Do you want to go ahead and introduce
Yes.
yourself? Let us know your pronouns and all that good stuff.
Hi, y'all. I am Nubia Iman. Well, when I look like that, I'm Nubia Iman. My pronouns are go by how I present. So right now they would be he, him. When I'm in the geesh, I wish you would call me a boy, because, honey. um, what should I say? What my age? You guys don't need to know that.
Something. Well, I do have a question for you, Nubia. Just because even your drag name, I know that there's a lot of intention and purpose, and even being able to do that for your art and your craft. How did you go about even choosing the name Nubia Iman?
I love that question. It's one of my favorite questions. So the thing about me is that I'm a huge nerd. I also like to be pretty, and I also like to be different. So Nubia comes from my nerdy side. I love comic books. I'm more of a Marvel fan, but I do give the respect that DC deserves. And I was this was right around the time I was coming starting drag. They had like the 25th anniversary or something about Wonder Woman, and there's this iconic picture of Wonder Woman with her back to another Wonder Woman who's black. So I did some research, and it turns out back when Wonder Woman first came out in like what the 20s or the 30s, there was actually a storyline where Wonder Woman was made out of white clay and had life breathed into her by Zeus, and Nubia is her twin sister who was made out of black clay and had life breathed into her by the gods as well. And she was just kidnapped by Ares, god of war, made one of his soldiers. So immediately I was like, there's a black Wonder Woman, period. Say no more. Iman is an ode to the beauty side. I love models. I've watched America's Next Top Models since the very beginning when they were in somebody's office on like somebody's high rise in New York. And I didn't want to be a Campbell. I didn't want to do a cliche model. One of the most beautiful models to me has always been Iman. She's just grace and poise personified. And I just switched. Her name is spelled with an I. My first name is spelled with an E. So I just swapped it out. And that's how Nubia Iman was born.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that, Nubia, and like really letting us know your history and how you came about to be with an identity formation. I'm also a Marvel girl, so I felt you with that. Storm is my old, and something just is like more so pertaining to like the LA drag scene. And I know something that you do a lot with your platform is that you do address anti-blackness and you focus on like black empowerment. How do you feel yourself as like a black drag performer? It is navigating the LA drag scene.
Whew. So when I started drag 3 years ago. That isn't it's not a long time, and yet it feels like a long time. Um, when I started, I think I knew of, let me think, two, maybe three black drag queens in the scene. Mind you, a lot have come out since I started drag and even after. But the fact was also that there were a lot of black drag queens already still here in LA. And it brought to me what it was why are they not booked? Why are these girls not booked? And they're talented. They're talented with their makeup. They're talented with their performance. They're talented with their sewing. They're not being booked, and I couldn't understand why. it was really difficult for me to understand. Some of these girls are 10 times, 15 times, 20 times better than a lot of the girls that are out right now who have been doing it this just as long as they have. But and it's not necessarily the drag scene itself. It's more so the club scene, the club and bar scene, the people who own the places, and it's also the the viewers, because a lot of people just started realizing what drag was when Drag Race came out. So they don't realize that drag is blackness, drag is brownness. It comes from us. It don't come from white folks. This was never a white thing. We invited you guys into our space, and like always, when we invite y'all, y'all like to take over. The fact is that we are what drag is, and yet somehow we are not being we aren't being seen. It's a difficult thing to have to deal with. And so, yeah, I have a mouth, as we all know. And I have no problem. I was never afraid of, oh, if I say this, I'm not going to get booked. Or if I know my talent. I know what I can do. And I know at the end of the day, fans, they may like a certain aesthetic. They might like the way that white people can do certain things with drag that we have to work a little bit harder at. But what I do know is that when I get on that stage, your eyes will all be on me. And so I've never been afraid of saying what I need to say and getting points across that need to be brought across, because a lot of people don't want to talk about these kinds of things. They're scared to talk about it. So that's what I do.
And I think that's very well said, friend, because like I remember something that you had posted when it was like Club 340 in Pomona, and how like they were so. And honestly, like when you brought that up and I looked into it, I'm just like, it's very important for us, I guess, these art gay couples, like to be even very critical of those spaces, and like you said, like whose spaces are like we actually even going into. But something else that I did like also did want to ask you, Nubia, because you said you've been doing drag for 3 years, and it's like it when in Spanish we have a word for it. It's called rasguache. Like you use with what you have. I was wondering what advice or what just like affirmations you would give to specifically like more so like Black youth or some who would be interested into getting into the drag scene.
So one of the main and a lot of girls, I don't know why they don't I don't know why they don't. When I first started drag, I started drag when I was homeless, jobless, staying in a youth shelter up in Hollywood, pretty much on the verge. And I happened to be working in a clothing closet, and I don't know who had brought some donations, but whoever had brought those donations was a drag queen, because I found some beautiful pieces. Um, and the lady I was working with, she knew I was interested in doing drag, so she was like, "Take it off." Um, Afterwards, once I got out of the shelter, and I was in my own space. I have a best friend. She's about my size, so she gave me some stuff too. But the main thing I would suggest is ask for everything, because the worst thing that anyone is going to be able to say is no. If I promise you, the first year of me doing drag was nothing but me going online. If I would see somebody online said, "Oh, I'm about to throw out all this drag," I am over there in their DMs like, "Where do you live?" I will be there in about 20 minutes. I'm catching the bus. I'll be right there. I've gotten bags of drags from other queens who have had their drag for. A lot of us hoard drag queens are hoarders. I guarantee you, we have all got about at least 2 bags of drag that we are not ever going to use again, even though we say to ourselves that we're gonna. So ask for it, because if you ask, the worst thing that can be said is no. But 9 times out of 10, we're not going to say no, because A, we've either been where you are, or B, we need someone to take this drag away from us, because we're not going to throw it out. We just can't. It won't let us. So ask for what you want. The second thing I would say is, do not be afraid of makeup. As a Black person, especially on the darker side, it is hard to find makeup in your shade that's easily accessible, because there's a lot of brands that have makeup in our shades, but then we have to order it online and we have to wait days for it to come in the mail. And that's difficult. Don't be afraid of makeup, and don't be afraid of going out looking a little bit lighter or maybe even a little bit darker than you actually are. You'll learn how to make your color if you need to. Just don't be going out there looking ghost white. It's not cute. Promise me. I've done it. I've been there. It's not cute. But yeah, don't be afraid of color. Don't be afraid of makeup. With color, I know a lot of us girls, we don't know how to get the color to be pigmented. There are ways. Just the next thing I'm gonna say, asking for anything, for drag, for advice, for tips, that is going to be the best thing for you. Because especially us as more now older drag queens, we are looking for more black drag queens and kings and things to be out there. And so of course we're gonna give as much knowledge as we can. You just have to be open to receiving it. That's all. Be open to receiving any advice, any tips that we have to give. We're gonna, as black folk, we all know the auntie mama mentality that we can kind of pull off, especially if it's someone coming to us trying to, get advice and everything. We're gonna look at you as mentee. We're gonna look at you, little sister, little daughter, whatever. But you're gonna be the younger bird. You're gonna look young to us, so we're gonna talk to you a little bit like you're young. Don't let that get to you. Don't let that get to you. You have to be prepared for that. But understand that we want to give you this knowledge. You just got to be ready to take it.
That was beautifully said, friend, and thank you so much for sharing that with us as well. And honestly, friend, congratulations on your resiliency. Also, I know you just recently are transitioning to a new home, so felicidades to that.
Yes.
I know I'm super, and you look amazing as well. Just this advice, Sydney, I see you in the chat, so I know this right now what you had to say is a lot of important advice for anyone who is really wanting to get into a drag scene. And right now, y'all, we are coming into that 6 p.m. mark. So now that we've had the opportunity to really get to know all of our panelists, now it really is open for all of you to be able to ask your questions. So Miguel, Keniyah, I was wondering if y'all could help me facilitate with this, just because I'm on my phone and I can't see all of the chats in the group chat, but not everyone. So all the questions that you were holding on to, or all the questions that you already had in the chat, this is going to be the opportunity for you to be able to speak directly to Cambria, Zerrick, and Nubia, or in general, if you just want to ask a general question for everyone to answer. This is now y'all's panel.
Yeah, we did have a question for Zerrick. How did you get started with dance on a professional level? And then going from learning and building your skills to feeling ready for music videos and more?
I'm sorry, say it one more time. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, how did you get started with dance on a professional level? And then how did you go about learning and building your skills so that you're more ready when you're doing music videos and more?
Okay, so to start, I am not a professional dancer. I'm not signed with any company or any type of agency. Naturally, I've always been able to vibe and just feel the music and do what I do. The specific dance I cater to is Vogue, but I would say just how I've gotten into dance was pretty much would be since grade school. I've always been a performer. I've always been performing and just being in any type of showcase or any type of opportunity that has come my way. I've just been okay, let's do it. So that's kind of how I've gotten to dance and have gotten up to the professional level of being accepted as an artist to get booked for gigs. And how I get ready, the question was, how do I prepare myself for opportunities? Was that the second question?
Yes. So when you're doing music videos and you're doing your performances.
So I am in Aquarius, and though I'm very freeing, I get in my head a lot. So I really have to take time with myself and get my inner peace and calm myself, because at the end of the day, I know that I'm a performer. I know that I have the talent. It's just me getting in my head saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's pretty much just me being calm and me being comfortable and knowing that I'm going to kill it, and knowing that the people that want me there know that I'm amazing. I just have to be willing to do my best and perform and not psych myself out.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Zerrick. We do have a question for Cambria. How do you believe we can change the institution of museums?
That's really hard. Maybe the Sag in me is that I think museum institutions are one of the oldest forms. A lot of people don't that museum institutions originated from the Wunderkammer, which is like a cabinet of wonders. And so it came from like people taking or stealing or buying or collecting objects and then classifying them. And then over time, the museum became like, okay, let's display this about this and the ethics and morals, without like taking into consideration like half of the stuff is stolen or like not repatriated back to museums. It's just, I think like in order to really change the institution of museums, it has to be dismantled because museums are colonial projects. I believe they're colonial projects. And you can't, I think Audre Lorde said that you can't use the master's tools to dismantle the master's house. And I agree with that because you there's no like museums are very, very slow. That's the one thing a lot of people don't take into consideration. Like museums are so slow, like from like the foundational level to even getting accredited. It takes 6+ years to get a museum accredited and follow standards and like certain little like formalities and everything. So there has like, and by changing the institution, it's kind of like facing the mirror at itself. And a lot of museums don't like that because they don't want to be held accountable for the colonial projects. So you have to really like look at the institution from a I dare say hypercritical lens and really have to go. It's really hard because this is the way the systems have made, we have to depend on it. But I believe there's a possibility of like being able to no longer depend on that. Like even like indigenous people having their own exhibitions and getting their own objects back that these museum collections have and that these institutions don't want to return. So it's really hard because some people might say, well, museums, we can trust them. I'm like, no. Like the British Museum still has to give Nigeria back the Benin bronzes. And at the Met Museum, a lot of the bronzes are there and I see them when I go to the Met. So like it's really hard because like people are like, yeah, we can make change. We can be good. Like museums aren't good. They aren't good. They'll never be good. And people don't want to be like, well, we can change, we can decolonize, we can be diverse. Like, no, they aren't. Like my experiences in the field say otherwise. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That actually ties back into like what you said your research project was about, like observing like the space that people of color, that Black people utilize, like in museums. Like, it's just like an observation. Like there's nothing really morally good you can expect from something that is bred from colonialism, essentially. So thank you for explaining that to us. Thank you.
And also, Cam, just thank you for keeping it real. Thank you for your honesty and like that kind of way for recording that. It's just like how we're actually going like to envision what this like liberation, what this freedom can look like, and especially just like once again, just be very critical of these spaces that we all go and like think accessible. You definitely gave me a lot to think about for this. And honestly, I just also did have one more question for y'all because, and just like everyone here who's like a panelist, I know like this is like a very Black event, but I did have a question, y'all, for all of you, and just like that question is more so to do like with how non-Black people can be in solidarity with y'all and how they can continue to support y'all, because especially with what happened like last year with like, as we saw like with Black Lives Matter, it became, unfortunately, I hate to say like this, it became a summer trend. And like I see a lot of people actually like will put BLM on their Instagram page for it to be an aesthetic, but that's all performative. And I know that as non-Black people, we have to actually be very intentional and purposeful of how you support y'all. But I was just wondering, you all, as like individually, like what are some ways that you feel like they are like non-Black people can support you in your art, in your fields of study, or just by critically thinking of themselves? Like, it's a question if you feel comfortable sharing. I would love to hear from you.
Ooh, I like this question. I think one, like the main important thing I think for like non-Black people is like they have to be aware of their own anti-Blackness. Anti-Blackness is rampant in other communities, like other in non-white communities, and I think like I'm using for example like what's been going on recently. Like everybody's like, oh, like you know, Black people aren't in solidarity. They're like Asian people and everything, and like they're like, but like, excuse my language, like, but BLM, right? And like those things, those statements are a big no because you can't co-opt a movement that was started for Black people and then get like mad or be like, oh, F BLM or F this if like something isn't in line with that. So I think that's one thing. And I think another thing from like a professional level is like definitely like if you're inviting Black speakers and like panelists and like all that and like professionals, actually pay them for their intellectual labor and actually put in the effort, because a lot of our work gets stolen and it gets co-opted, and a lot of people take credit for that and we don't get the full rights for that. And it's important for people to actually monetarily support us. Yeah, you can like talk and like be performative and stuff, but your pockets have to say the actual thing and your actual actions have to show. So I think that's all for me. Other people might have a different response, but I wholeheartedly believe in accountability and actual like responsibility on that lens.
So my take on this as non-Black folk, and so in the ballroom community, it's a very, even though it started with Black and Brown and Latinx folks, it's a very open-minded, safe haven. There are many cisgendered and heterosexual people who we embrace, who respect our culture, and who take it and oh, let me not say that. Hold up. So what you said, Victor, I think there needs to be an awareness of what's going on and not be blindsided by it just because it doesn't affect you. With the things that have been happening during the pandemic, you know, the people dying, the Black injustices, the Black trans femmes, you know, being murdered, the African American men being murdered, Latino men, the Asian Americans, you know, being discriminated. There are a lot of people right now who are of non-people of color who are pretty much, well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not going to show awareness to it. I'm not going to post about it because that's not my problem. But these are the same people who share my culture and who respect my culture, which came from a Black person. Yet when it's time to talk about our issues, it doesn't affect you. But at the end of the day, I would just say that, how would I say this? I would just say, in order for you to respect Black culture and Black art, you have to be there when the problems start and the injustices start as well.
Yes, thank you. Something that, thank you for bringing that up. I don't know if any of you guys noticed, probably did, but when each of the panelists spoke, they mentioned someone that had inspired them. It could have been several Black artists, a few, like, or one, but all of the panelists had in common that they all did their homework and they all gave you the answers. And if Black people are researching and doing their homework to stay on their P's and Q's as a non-Black person participating in anything Black, like from any like Black diasporic culture, it is your job to also do your due diligence and to credit these people and name these people, because that's important too. That puts money in pockets, that makes sure that people get credit for what they've made. Like, these things are essentially important. Like, we just saw, as Nubia had explained, like, there is so many, like in Los Angeles alone, so many amazing Black drag queens that a lot of people are not made aware of because these people are not naming names. They're not giving these people jobs. They're not like giving credit where it's due. And that is like extremely important, because it also takes away from the entitlement, because there is really nothing new under the sun. And like, it's important to recognize like where you got your swag from, like where you got this from, like where you learned that from, where you learned to do your makeup like that, dress like that, talk like that, like do that, like that all came from somewhere. And a lot of these people died penniless or like died broke. And like, you know, especially as queers, like whether you're white, Black, non-Black, Latinx, like Asian, like it does, like a lot of queer artists in general die penniless, like with like, you know, nothing to their name. And it's the least you can do, especially if they're Black, knowing like society and how anti-Blackness is everywhere in the world. The least you can do is name them. That's the least you can do. Like whether it's a drag queen, whether it's someone that's dancing, a writer, a singer, someone that's producing beats, someone that's cooking, dressing, even if it's somebody that is like on Twitter or on IG that's making vision boards, that's making aesthetics and stuff like that, you need to name these people, like regardless. Yes, but oh, sorry. Also, that leads me to ask, because I really had this question, because when you said that, like, I felt bad, like I am a Black queer woman and I never really wanted to go to drag shows like that because like white drag queens would bore me. Like, I want to see you. Like, no, because Victor brought up, like, you know, the first time they saw you, you was singing, like you rapped Azalea Banks, like Fierce, right? And like,
Oh yeah.
you see somebody on stage rapping City Girls or Megan, or like, I don't know, like these are like, even if they're not gonna do that, like Anita Baker, like I don't know, like things that are
Period. That's a good one.
Yeah, and like as like I'm Black and I'm like bi, and like I was Black and bi back home in Dago, and like I hung around Black queer people, and like we weren't really going to shows like that. And now I'm thinking, like, is there just like a disconnect, like, are like outside of the queens themselves, like there needs to be patrons that are supporting them. Like that's how we're able to create our own spaces and get money, because like on some, I don't work for any organization. I work for the organization of Keniyah.
Period. Period.
Sorry. But I'm going with this, like, because you were saying like these girls aren't getting booked, and like, you know, like we got to FUBU it, we got to BET it. Like, what is something that we need to do? Oh, you don't gotta be sorry, it's okay. What is something that we need to do to like make sure that like, you know, these queens are being seen? Because like, yeah, I would have loved to see somebody like.
And see, and that's the thing. Like I'm gonna tell y'all my age because I don't really care. I am 29 years old. I've been going to drag shows for the last 12 years. Yeah, I graduated high school at 17, started going out to the clubs. So when I tell you that I probably saw my like third or fourth Black drag queen maybe like 4 years ago, and I've been going to shows that was a problem. I'm gonna preface what I'm about to say by saying that obviously it's not a good thing, but it is. If you're giving lemons, make some lemonade. Corona has put some pressure on these businesses. Corona has put some pressure on these owners of these bars and these. I know it was hard before because they have all the money, they have all these connections, but they don't have no money right now. They don't have no money. They need us, Black drag queens and kings and things, to perform so that they can get that money back. Because as we all know, money is what we do. We spend money. We all spend. People look at Black folk and they're just like, all they do is buy bling, bling, this, that, the other. But the fact of the matter is, you're not realizing that we are the consumer market. Y'all are selling to us. Y'all not selling to white folk. If y'all were selling to white folk, it would be nothing but potatoes and pumpkins, spice, and all of that. Like, it's not gonna be like you sell to us. So you know that we're the consumers, but they don't placate to us. They placate towards these white folk. Now they need us. They need the Black consumers as well. If they don't have enough Black folk and brown folk and trans folk, and if they are not fully inclusive, do not go to those businesses. Put pressure on these hoes. You don't go. There have been, even now for myself, there are some bars that if they were to ask me for to come and do a show for fundraising, or if they would ask me to do a video for fundraising, the answer would be no. Because prior to Miss Rona, when I would ask you if I could get a booking, when I would have to damn near beg to get a booking, y'all weren't paid. Y'all were paying it for me. Y'all were just not here for it at all. But now you need me. Okay, well, if you need me so bad, here are my terms. That's another thing. Queens, kings, and things. And this is something that the legendary, which again, this is a queen that I did not find out about until I worked with her maybe 2 years ago, and I had no idea she existed. Miss Barbecue. Love her. Great, phenomenal drag queen, phenomenal woman, and we ain't heard about her. But also, the reason why we haven't really heard about her is she is on some like Beyonce type business shit. She has contracts that she gives to the. If you're not going to meet her contract, if you're not going to sign her contract, she's not going to be in your show. She has a set pay that she has to get paid, because we're getting paid $50 for two numbers. Where we're a lot of us, if we're doing work, because Black folk, we have to do more to get just as much than these white girls. Because mind you, we're not getting paid more than them. They're definitely getting paid more than us to just be pointer sisters, just to walk around and point and be cute and pose. Whereas I have to literally damn near break my neck to get a $5 tip. She has contracts, and if you're not gonna meet those contracts, she's not gonna be there. She has a set time. If the show says it starts at a certain time and the call time is at a certain time, she is there when she gets. If your show starts to run late, that does not mean she stays late. If she's out at a certain time, she's out at that time. If that means you miss a number, she's not getting paid less for it. And that right there is where all of us need to be. That's where all of it, and even as consumers, if a show's supposed to start at a certain time, if the host of the show is communicating with you, great. Give them a little leeway. But if it's already about 30 minutes in and you're seeing that this cast might be, if already the cast is looking a little, already, if it's been 30 minutes and that show hasn't started, get up and walk the fuck out. I promise you it won't happen again. I promise it won't happen again. We have to start putting pressure on these hoes. As non-Black folk, y'all really gotta put pressure on these hoes, because we can only do so much. I have no problem being a loud, angry Black person, because it's a role that fits me. Like Beyonce and Obsessed, it fits me well.
Yeah.
So I have no problem with it. But I know a lot of my girls, a lot of my brothers and sisters, they don't have that. I got into this game a little bit late as far as the wokeness, because I grew up with white folk. I grew up in a white, damn near suburbia. And so when I got woke, I got that woke anger that we all get when we wake up a little bit. And so I have no problems with it. I'm ready to go anytime, any day. But I appreciate like shout out to Maybe a Girl, because Maybe a Girl is one of those girls who will literally put herself in front of another white person who is going the fuck off, because she knows that it's the right thing to do. She uses her skin as a shield and a sword, because she has no problems fighting. None whatsoever. So y'all have to do, I saw that a lot at the beginning of the pandemic during the George Floyd protest. And I hear a lot of people call it the riot. I'm not calling it no damn riot. If I call it a riot, I call it a police riot, because that was started with police at the end of the day. All of that got started because police didn't know how to act, because they're not trained. I don't care what they say that they're not trained. They're not trained at all. So, yeah, she's one of those people who just was about being in front, making sure to protect any protester who was walking, who was Black and brown. And I saw a lot of people doing that out there, and I wish I could see everyone doing that. If you see a Black and brown person getting harassed, you should be as loud as you can be. You need to be shouting at the top of your lungs, hey, what the fuck are you doing? That's wrong, period. Black, brown, and anyone who you see is getting harassed. Trans, it doesn't matter. We are, unfortunately, we are here on this planet, and it sucks. We have to pay bills. I don't like it. I know y'all don't either. So if we're gonna have to already do that, why make it harder for another person when you know what you're dealing with? I'm not to say that white folk don't go through shit. White folk gotta be white. It's unfortunate. Y'all don't really have a culture. Y'all don't really have seasoning. It's unfortunate. But don't you want to be invited to people's places who do have seasonings? Like, I don't know. Just, I'm a Capricorn, so I'm very much so about, I'm a Cap, so I'm very much so, I won't do nothing shady to nobody, because that Saturn don't play that. Karma is about that with me. So I can't, I've had people do me dirty. And I had one time where I did this, I got a little payback, and baby, Karma said, hi, I'm at your door. So I can't do things to people just because I want to do it and I don't give a fuck. You have to give a fuck. If you got to do something shady to somebody, let it be a lesson. I believe pettiness with a purpose is a necessity because some people need a lesson. It's like when your mama let you put your hand on the stove and you burnt yourself. She said, now you know it's hot. That's fine. That's fine. But if she already know you know it's hot, and then she just gonna let you accidentally touch the stove, that's rude. That's cruel, and that's not all right. So if you see it, say something about it. Rise up, act up. Like, come on, it's not that hard. Y'all white folk have been saying, rise up and act up. Like,
that's really
be
good.
about it.
Yeah, it's
be
really
about it.
And I also want to bring up the point too, because I know I've had this happen to me before. Being a Black person in California is not easy. It's awful. Especially if you're not like it's terrible. But
it's terrible.
It's terrible. Color struck is awful. But anyway, if you see a Black person, like do not wait for them to start like defending themselves. Like if you see someone talking crazy to someone that's Black or talking crazy in general, approach that. Do not wait for someone to essentially like kind of put themselves against the world, because that's like usually what happens in situations like that.
Exactly.
It's getting verbally assaulted. People are talking, like saying really inflammatory things. It doesn't become a one-on-one anymore. The Black person defends themselves usually. The situation is just incredibly uncomfortable because they don't just have this one person that is verbally assaulting them. They have an audience of people that most likely agree. Oh, shoot, sorry. Okay, there was Miguel. Oh, sorry.
But no, finish your statement, friend. You can keep going. I know that we're supposed to officially end at 6:30, but I would really like for you to like finish what you have to say.
I wanted to just say though, like, do not wait for a Black person to pop off, like, because it's really nothing to pop off, but it is exhausting. So do not wait for them to defend themselves and then to jump in, like, oh, it's okay. Like, you are a person with your own moralistic compass, and if you see something wrong, like we learned this in kindergarten, you see something wrong, you say something or you do something. And that goes like even if a Black person like is not there. Yeah, so that's just essentially like that's like one of the biggest things, like you need to speak.
Thank you so much, y'all. Everyone just like right now, I'm sorry, it's like still processing a lot of the things they're saying, and just like a lot to think about and illuminate. And just to like everyone who's here, y'all panelists, like everyone said, like yes, we did have these amazing conversations today, but like let's make sure that's like what's learned here, like leaves here. But in terms of like specific details, y'all, because a lot of people did share a lot of personal stuff as well. What's said here stays here. So like personal details, people's like trauma stuff, like let's not disclose that. But in terms of the lessons, like as non-Black people, how we can be held accountable, how can we have agency? Like Keniyah said about having that compass. Nubia, you had me at potatoes and pumpkins. I was dying, but honestly, this has been so beautiful. This has been so amazing. And to the youth who are here, I just want to say, like, right here, we really just scratched the surface of so much. I'm so sad that we even have to cut it off, like right now. Like we really scratched the surface of these conversations. But please know that if in the future, if you want to bring back Cambria, Zerrick, Nubia, like, and even if like there's a ways that you want to help them fundraising, because I think it is important for us to be able to compensate them as well and actually be able to like back it up in that kind of way. Like Cambria, I love how you said it, that intellectual property, that intellectual labor, and just all your emotions and putting your heart out there. I'm so thankful, and I'm just so grateful that I get to, I'm like, I can't believe I get to invite all of you. I'm like, have this space, and I'm really honored that y'all even said yes to being able to participate to this event. Estoy muy agradecido. Thank you so much, everyone. To the lovely panelists. So, round of applause, everyone here who did that. And Miguel, I know you do have like some slides you have to show to the youth advocates and mentors that I know they have to register for. But is there any like closing statements from our panelists? Just like real quick, like I know we are down to like 5 minutes, but I still want to give y'all like the space to share a little bit more.
Follow me on Instagram, just simply because I love meeting new people. And, although I don't think necessarily that it should be so quickly, California is seeming to start to open up a little bit more. And once it's fully open and it's safe, I would love to meet any and everyone who wants to talk about anything that we talk about. I'm also open to doing this again and again and again. This is something that I thought this was great. This was a great little panel. And next time you'll be able to see me in drag, like fully in drag, not just this bomb picture right here. But just if you ever feeling any type of way, this is my Black youth. If you feeling some type of way about anything, whether it's about wanting to do drag or just being Black in America or being Black in general, reach out at Nubia Iman forever. I have no problem talking to any and everybody about any and everything. So yeah, I'm around.
Oh,
Oh yeah, sorry, Cam. Y'all drop your IG handles and all your social medias on the chat, please. Go ahead, Cam.
I think I guess words of wisdom. You do definitely put it if you really want to do something, really do it. I didn't mention this, but throughout my journey, I didn't get a lot of support from my family. It was really hard. I'm a quadruplet, so it was really hard leaving all my twins and my parents behind. I did all of that and had to go through a lot, and it does get a little lonely, but there is support out there. And if anyone wants to reach out to me about graduate school, about museum, about art, about even creative writing, follow me on Instagram. I'm not in California I won't be in California anytime soon, maybe for the next couple months, but more than happy to just because I'm in New York doesn't mean I'm not reachable. I'm pretty accessible. So yeah, I'll drop my IG. I'm down. Even an email, something. I'm pretty open. So yeah, it feels really intimidating when you're young doing big things, but you're not alone, and there is a support system, and the people who are really in your corner will give you your flowers. And just want to thank you, Victor. I've known Victor since I was an undergrad, and I just he's been one of the people in my corner that has given me my flowers and is always giving me my flowers. So I just want to give a special thank you to him. It's I absolutely adore him, and I just even meeting Keniyah, Zerrick, and Nubia. You guys are all amazing, and I'm so glad I got to meet you all. So yeah.
Oh girl, I ain't shit, but thank you. It was so good meeting you too.
I think. Sorry, Zach.
Oh, I just quickly want to say that I'm so thankful to be on here. I'm so thankful I got to speak, to meet everyone, Keniyah, Cambria, Nubia, everyone that was listening, everyone that asked questions. Thank you, Victor, for even thinking of me for this opportunity. You've known me since I was a little boy, and I was closeted and shy, and I didn't even want to speak, and I couldn't public speak. And now I'm doing this and I get to share my story. So I'm really grateful. And thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you all for coming tonight. Make sure that if you want, you can join us on Thursdays if you're 18 to 26 in the LA area. We host a group, Substance Abuse Prevention, called Rise Up and Act Youth for Change. But thank you to all the panelists, Zerrick, Keniyah, Cambria, Nubia, Cailin, Victor. Thank you so much for having us and for coming. We hope you have a good night.